This is Ariel Imas, and you're listening to the Matt Balaker podcast.
Today's guest knows his way around hockey rinks, chessboards, and capital markets. He's a longtime investment banker, entrepreneur, and founder of Diesis Inc. Please welcome Ariel Imas to the show.
Hey, nice to have me. Thank you. So I appreciate it.
It is nice to have you. And there's so much more to you than just this, entrepreneurial stud. I think what some of our listeners want to know is, where did you grow up, Ariel?
Great question. So I come from a really just classic story of a blue-collared background, grew up in Brooklyn, and, never had any kind of finance in my family or anything like that at all. But I got to really love finance when I was a kid. I don't know what happened. I just enjoyed starting to take my parents, change, quarters, nickels, dimes. I take them, steal it, put it in my bank account, piggy bank, that is. And I still remember a Pinocchio piggy bank, put it right in there. After every week, I was like 7 years old, 6 years old in my Brooklyn apartment, counting the money every week. And my parents would be like, and my grandma was like, "What are you doing? Kids aren't supposed to be counting change." And I'm like rolling it up, and I'm like, and I just knew I had love for money. My dad in Israel, I was born in Israel, I was 1 year old when I moved over. He was in the world of finance, right? But as a teller in the banks, I kind of feel like it went from my dad's side. But yeah, I was in Brooklyn till about 11 years old, and then moved to Staten Island, New York through and through, and then lived in Manhattan as an adult.
So as a grammar school kid, as they say in New York City, you were already saving your pennies and counting your money. I'm curious, because my dad grew up in Greenpoint. What part of Brooklyn did you live in?
It's not that far away. I think Prospect Park, around there. And the actual area is called Kensington. So it's on Ocean Parkway and Church, and Avenue C around there. It's like old school Soviet Russian world that people would come from like all over and descend there. I come from that kind of background. That's the kind of background. You never pierce the bubble of Wall Street, right? You're like always on the outside looking in because you never had the mentality, and it takes a true mentality to be in that world, to understand and getting it. The word it I use a lot, but you have to have the thread of the conversation, understand, and obviously move with the times to feel the situation out. What I'm talking about is, we could get into it in a show, but like corporate America, understanding what finance is about. That took a lot of effort and know-how.
Yeah, you don't just get it hanging out at Kensington. And I want to take a quick step back, because when I was a kid, my dad would always talk about how like Brooklyn was tough, and now it's like Greenpoint, especially. Like I remember there were signs in Polish, and now it's known for like gluten-free scones. Like it's gotten so different. What are some of the bigger changes you've seen in Brooklyn during your lifetime?
No, it's a great question. So I got to tell you, when I was growing up, it wasn't a great neighborhood. You would think it was, but it wasn't. I mean, it was kind of like elderly people, but then you had just these, I don't know how to say it. I mean, I had so many times where these punks would just out of nowhere, a couple of years old. I'm like 10 years old walking, a 14-year-old would stop me and say, "All right, empty out your pockets." And, and listen, if you don't, you get your butt beat. And I remember a story just like that many times. My parents had it. They had their car broken into like 4 or 5 times. And it wasn't that bad of an area. I don't want to make you think like this is East Brooklyn. This is just run of the mill kind of stuff. And that's when we moved to Staten Island when I was getting around 12 years old. But, still has some good memories though.
They're like, "Ariel's getting jumped too many times. We got to get out of here. So let's pick up our bags and go to Staten Island." So what was that like?
Best day ever, man. I was so happy. Imagine going from an apartment and city-ish life, right? I mean, I carved out my memories there. My best friend for life, Eric Grunfest, Michael Becker, these guys, I'm still best friends with today. I've known them since I was 3 years old, grew up in the same area. So I will love that aspect forever. And Eric's actually managing partner with me at Diesis. So go figure, like how that would. But Staten Island was the best day ever. I mean, when I moved there, we had a house. It's a townhouse. I had a bike. I was able to, kind of enjoy that lifestyle. And I really, really appreciate my parents for making that happen, because they didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. And my mom worked 3 jobs to get herself to the point where she literally spent every penny that she had and I had in my bank. And at that time, I had a couple $1,000s, believe it or not, at that age. And we put everything at the house, every single penny. And she had 0 in the account, but in order to make that move. And it was the best thing that ever happened.
How do you think that influenced you?
It's like this. Listen, the generation today, is a very different one, unfortunately. The Gen Z, or the next gen now, and I'm probably as guilty as anyone else as a parent. I have two boys that are going to be 11 and 13. And man, I just feel sometimes I failed. And sometimes I feel like I can't love them enough. And I showed them that. But the generation that I'm from, so-called like Zennial, I really think of us as Zennials, me and you, Matt, 77 to 83, that we're our own world. We're in our own generation because we saw what it was like before the movement of the computers, and then after the phone, before and after. But why am I saying all this? Is because I think we're so unique and we're so well positioned in life that I wish other generations had that for themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
it was tough. I mean, listen, when you grow up with no money, you start valuing every single penny that you have. And, I thank my lucky stars every penny I make. I really do. I get wins now in my life. And when I have those wins, I thank the universe and I say to myself, I know how hard it is and I don't take it for granted. And that's what my parents taught me, and they were extremely cheap. And they would yell at me anytime I wanted my Zelda game when I was little. And they said, "You know how much your dad had to work to get there." And again, this is a typical story you hear, but it's always redeeming when you hear it. And to me, I love sharing that with you and your
Mm-hmm.
listeners, because I hope people learn from that. And I hope people understand, when the more you value one penny earned, which is two pennies. Oh, yeah. But it's like, but every time you value a dollar you make, it allows you to open your mind up for more success, because people try to hit home runs too often, right? So when all you need is a bunt single and then another bunt single, right? And then the cumulative effect of, putting those bases up, your runs will start coming in. And that to me is what people don't understand. The multiplier, the leverage, compounding, right? The eighth wonder of
Yeah.
this Warren Buffett, right? The compounding effect. And if you start even at 20, 30, 40, it doesn't matter. You're going to live 80 years, right? In 90 years, hopefully, that little change makes the big change happen. And that's when you ask me, how does that put it into perspective for me? I understand risk. I understand the dollar and the value of money.
Those are important things. And as a Tony Gwynn fan, it makes my heart warm knowing that singles are valued. So thank you for saying that, Ariel. So what
Yeah.
was your first, like before you went to college, what was your first job?
Great question, man. You're touching on a fun fact. So, I mean, how far back you want to go, man? Like, I worked all my life.
Well, I guess what's the first job that you remember where someone else paid you? It wasn't like chores around the home. It was like you were kind of responsible to someone other than your parents.
So my first monies I've ever made, I still remember this like yesterday. I think I was 13, and I shoveled snow. We had a lot of snow hit, and me and my buddies together, I had one or two other friends, and we went around the block. And like it used to be, like you hear in stories, we would go out with a shovel and do the driveway. And then one day I made over 100 something dollars, and I'm like so damn proud, because we were working the whole day, 8 hours, easy, just shoveling snow. Got hot chocolate, the stuff you hear about, man. I did it, and my dad saw the money. He's like so proud of me, and I was just like, I couldn't be happier in that validation to show that I could make money and be like a man, like that's what I felt like I'm the man, like kind of getting in there, what meant everything to me. So that was so cool to just, and then right after that, I was a paper boy in Staten Island. I would go and deliver, and that taught me some serious like discipline to wake up at Sunday 5:30 in the morning, because everyone needed their Sunday paper by 7. And that was the other job I had around the same time. I was 13, 14 years old, and making money that way.
Yeah, that's a job, Gen Zers are probably unfamiliar with. It's certainly lost to the internet, but I think for teens and preteens, that was a pretty good way to get your foot in the door, because you had to show punctuality, you had to work consistently, and the money was pretty decent. And especially if you could get one of your parents, I had some friends who would get them to drive them, and then you could cut your route time in half. But what say
Yeah,
you?
I was on rollerblades, man. I did it on rollerblades. I got really good at throwing that paper far. I would angle it. I had the spin thing going. I go right and it would curve left. I was money. I was doing
So you
so
were rollerblading with newspapers. I think everyone's know how many times did you get your ass kicked
Staten Island was awesome. Never once. Never once.
in Brooklyn? So where did this love for hockey begin?
My dad, he was a huge Ranger fan. I remember watching the Rangers starting at 3 years old.
Wow.
That early. That's how I got into it. And then I started playing hockey. And then when you start playing hockey, it just takes off. And I was a diehard Ranger fan to the point where I wouldn't miss one game out of 80 games, not one. And I would even write my own stats. So I had my own like paper and I would like, oh, okay, Thomas Sandstrom with the goal assisted by, David Patrick. And then I would like, put the assist goal. I would keep stats alongside the NHL.
Wow. And I'm in Southern California, and actually, ice hockey is pretty big here. People find that hard to believe, but it's one of the bigger used sports, but it's freaking expensive. What was it like that, because we don't get natural frozen water. We, have to go into ring. Well, how did you start out playing hockey, like in Staten Island?
So I started actually in Brooklyn when I was 9 years old.
Okay.
I actually played ice. I did roller before that. And as I got into roller, I was like, I had the bug, right, to play. And me and my dad were always playing in the house, in the apartment. And then the downstairs neighbors would always go nuts and hit the broom up and, like you hear about. And I'm like, oh, we got to stop playing now. But I got really good stick handling. Like my dad being a Soviet hockey player, stick handling is always unbelievable. And so I got the bug at 9 and I started playing at Prospect Park, that rink there. And I went to Ape Stark. So I played a couple of years, 3 years before I went into Staten Island and started playing there. And I played travel. And again, very expensive. So I had to work my butt off to pay off for my skates, my shoulder pads. Equipment was several hundred, if not $1,000 you're going to spend just before even paying a couple $1,000 for being on ice time. So it's a tough sport. Again, I really am proud to say my parents were just so amazing. I hope my mom and dad listen to this because they never hear anything good. They're like, oh, I never hear from you. You never call. And then it's like, I'm like, and I think to myself, I'm like, I really do need to take a step back and appreciate the little things that got me here. And I have a long way to go still in life. Yeah, that's how it started.
Well, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Imas. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
How many teeth have you lost to hockey, if any?
Really good question. I was pretty good. I always had a mouthpiece on. So I always had a mouthpiece and it's like, I got a couple of shots, but remember when you're a kid, you have a full face mask. Oh, so like you don't luckily get, now the problem is like chin. I got hit here. I got a stitches here. Like I still have a scar there. That was a pretty bad hit, but you got to get used to it. It's like taking the hits. I mean, that's what I love about it. You got to learn, how to get hit. You know how to fight. You're tough. I love that kind of sports. None of this nonsense like you see today. It's like, oh, let's play touch football or life isn't easy, man. Like you gotta earn your keep. You gotta be tough. You have to be ready to get hit all the time and defend yourself. That's what I love about the sport.
Yeah, I know my way around the mean streets of Orange County, so I know the importance of being tough.
Listen, you got to be ready to throw down at all times.
Sometimes someone is stealing your sun at the beach and you might not have enough sunscreen and you just got to throw down. Those are the circumstances. It's go time. So tell us about your college days. What was that like?
So, I mean, I went to Pace University. I commuted for 3 years before I dormed for my senior year. And, the commuting life wasn't one that I would say is anything to really want to yearn for. It was tough because imagine you're going to school in the morning, takes you an hour and a half sometimes to get there, hour and a half to get back. It is not for the faint of heart. And the reason was because I barely could afford Pace University. That's where I went there. I mean, they got a semi-scholarship. Still, my parents, I took loans out and I just did the motions of going there. But what I did appreciate about Pace the most, I have to say, now this is like a commercial for Pace, but they have a great co-op program. I would say between them, Baruch, and NYU, I mean, they got New York City on lock, and obviously Columbia, but Columbia's a little, it's a little different. So they have a robust co-op program because you're in the heart of Wall Street. Pace is right near the Brooklyn Bridge, 3-minute walk from, Wall Street. So like for me, I started working sophomore year pretty much full time alongside going to school. So I was always work mode. I was always thinking having a job and making money and learning on the job.
And what was your major?
Finance. Yep. BBA.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're one of the few people actually does what he majored in. What's that like?
I don't know, man. I got to tell you, the universe had a calling for me. I don't know what it was. It's interesting because I got to tell you, where when you go to for studying in school, you're one of the few people that either you take that seriously or go for party, right? Or just kids are, you're so young, you're not, I don't know, you're not really thinking about real world problems. You're going from high school into college, and then all of a sudden you have to wake up and be an adult. Okay, well, you have your autonomy. You're going to school on your own. Not everything is as rigid, right? In a class setting in high school, but I have to say, I don't know. I have mixed emotions about people going to college right away. I think my gut tells me that you almost need like a year in between to find yourself as a human. Maybe travel if you can. If you can't, I get it because of the money issue. But I don't know, man. Like I think that it's hard to just dive right into college the second you finish high school, because I wasn't necessarily ready. I just did the motions that everyone said to do. What's next
Yeah.
on the agenda? Okay, keep walking down the path of life. And I don't think it really worked for me. I have to tell you, college was just, I studied, I learned it, I remember it, I worked. With my kids, I'm going to give them options that I want them to have. I may tell them, listen, take a year off, take 2 years off. There's no reason to go sooner unless the money thing is such a big problem. Then for sure, I totally appreciate anyone that's listening to say, listen, I can't afford that. And I think I was that person, but I wish I could have, even for a semester off, to just find myself, go traveling, even backpacking, do whatever to just learn a little bit more about life.
Yeah, you have plenty of time to be a grown up. I think it's good to have those exploratory times.
I really think so. I never had that. I never had a chance to do that. And that's one of my regrets, is to not have that opportunity to just be with myself.
Mm-hmm. I, did you work for Jim Cramer at one point?
I have, yeah. In 20, let's see, how was I? I was 21 years old, senior year in Pace. I found a job when I was looking for something. I had no clue who he was. Just no clue. I'm like, oh, some research assistant. Oh, this looks cool. TheStreet.com, which is the name. I like stocks. I love stocks. I buy stocks and I get to research them for this dude. Great. Let's go do it. Then I look him up. Someone from I was president of the finance club at the time, and someone one of my people in my club said, "Hey, you even know who this guy is? Look him up." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I guess he's a somebody." So yeah, the Real Money radio show. It was a big deal. He would write articles, and I looked at them all up. And I remember two stocks he loved. It was Pfizer, and I'm trying to remember the other one. Shoot, I don't want to just butcher it, but it was Pfizer and one other one. And I mentioned both those stocks in the interview when he asked me why. I think it was Philip Morris, and he's like, "Tell me the two stocks, or not two. Tell me the stocks you love." And I mentioned exactly his stocks with his reason. He's like, "I love this guy, sold." And literally on the spot, I got hired. On the spot. I had like 150 people interviewing. And the fun part about that job was the reason why I even got an interview was because the HR of the street.com was the same HR at Noonan Russo Communications, which was the internship I had when I was a sophomore at Pace. I actually interned at Noonan Russo Communications. So the HR woman that worked at the street, recognized my name, saw Noonan Russo and said, let's give this kid a shot. And then then I got the job. It was wild. But spoiler alert, I knew nothing. I was nowhere near the caliber that a guy like that needed, because there are a lot of kids who are geniuses. Let me tell you, I was far from a genius. I thought I knew some stuff, and people all said that I had all this potential because I had the gift of gab. But let me tell you, I knew nothing. I was embarrassed to how little I knew what was expected of me to work at a job of that magnitude, right? So that's where I think the problem lied for me. Was I realized how quick I didn't know stuff. I needed to take a step back. I knew I wasn't going to last. So I actually left the job about 6 months later. They didn't want to fire me. but I knew I was doing him a disservice by staying, to tell you the truth. I needed to kind of work on myself. And I did just that. I actually studied for the CFA and I studied very hard. I took college classes in finance and I realized I wasn't well equipped to remember everything. And I knew stocks, I knew behavioral economics, I knew that part, but the fundamentals were a little lacking. So I went back and studied for the CFA. I passed level one, never passed level two. I'm terrible at test taking, but I studied literally hundreds of hours on my own. And what it did for me was finally put every piece together. And I learned from, for those that are listening, on the balance sheet is number one thing. When people want to know about finance, like Ariel, I hear this all the time. How do I get into finance? How do I know how do I know what you know? And I'm like, okay, you got to start with the principles of accounting. Yeah. Everyone asks, how do I get to know stocks? It's such a vast world. I don't know where to begin. It's scary. It really is. There's so much to know. And I think you start with understanding the basic principles of finance. And it's not about valuing companies on a discount cash flow basis. That gets people lost. All the spreadsheet analysis with ChatGPT, you don't need any of that. What you need to know is understand the essence of finance. Where does that begin? Balance sheet, income statement, cash flow statement. That is where everything starts. My number one thing, if I had a class, I'd be like, I want you to learn the balance sheet, period, end of story. So accounting principles, understanding financial shenanigans, where it comes from. How does the balance sheet connect to the income statement and then to the cash flow statement? If you could figure out how to create a cash flow statement using the balance sheet and income statement, you, my friend, have the fundamentals of finance, which, by the way, 99% of people don't know how to do. That's the fun.
Yeah. So, give us all some hints. What like people say you balance sheet. What's the most important? What are the most important aspects to you?
I think the number one thing I look for is to understand if the company is in financial duress. Okay. I don't care anything about, I'm pretty brutal, by the way. Now you're going to get me into Wall Street mode, and that's not good. But I'm pretty brutal when it comes to just knocking down the doors when it comes to companies. I get very frustrated when people try to pull the wool over your head. I get very mad because I think it's a very simple situation. I want transparency. I want you to tell me what's really going on. I don't even need you to tell me. I'll look at your financial statements and I'll tell you what's going on. And you can't BS me because this is legal stuff. You can't lie. That's fraud. You go to jail, right? I know how to read income statements, balance sheet. What's the number one thing in balance sheet is to understand if you're in financial trouble. How do I know you're in financial trouble? Cash flow statement. Go into balance sheet part, current assets, cash flows says right there. You know this world just as much as I do, Matt. We grew up together in it. So on the current assets, which is your short-term assets, that means it's your liquidity, meaning how much money does a company have on hand right now to pay for stuff? What do they have in the bank account like a normal person does? How much money do you have in your bank account? $1,000? Okay. What's your cost though? How much does it cost for you to live? $2,000? Okay. We're in deep trouble, guys. What about how much do you have on credit cards? Yeah, I'm equivocating people to companies. You have $30,000 credit card debt. Okay. But how much interest do you have to pay every month? This is not good. You have to pay $700-800 of interest a month. How much are you making each month? So these are the things I do, but I look at debt first to know how much trouble the company's in because I need to know when that debt is due. If that debt is due within the next 3, 5, 6 months, or even a year, that's short-term debt. I don't have the short-term cash to pay for my future debt. That means I have to refinance it. That's trouble. Interest being too high is trouble. Why? Because I need to look at how much income you make. Well, then I don't necessarily see that in the balance sheet unless you go quarter to quarter and you see retained earnings. But I don't want to go too granular, but I'm just kind of going back a step and saying, guys, I need to see how healthy you are. Are you making money or are you losing money? That's another thing. It's a very simple thing. By the way, when you ask simple questions and you get simple answers, and that's all you need to understand where you're going with the company. You apply these simple methods, you'll go very far in life. I'm telling you, it's the people that try to unearth, try to be cute about knowing some stuff. And with today's AI and agentic and all this stuff, it's so insane, the revolution that we're in. So insane. This is me and you back in .com era, right? Like this is the computerized system all over again. This is as big, if not bigger. You just needed the building blocks to get there. But now we're just taking off. We are going parabolic. So why I'm saying the simple stuff, no simple. Why no simple is because then you could, hey, I need some money. Matt, I'm doing a private raise for $1 million at a 100 million valuation. It's gonna go to 5 billion. Here's why. And it could be like, Eric, come on, like, what are we doing over here? Why? Because you know, and I know, in order to be worth 100 million, you have to be financially healthy. You need to start with the basics. Are you losing money? Are you making money? Are you growing quickly? So you start, when you ask me this question, I could talk another 5 hours about this. It could be a 5 hour course, but I want to say simple first, understand the financial statements.
All right. Keep it simple, sexy. I think that's how the saying goes. So I had a professor tell me investment bankers aren't investors and they're not bankers. So what are they?
I have to think about that. Are they not being, that's a really good point. I have to say, you know what they are? They're handholders. They are paper pushers. They are connectors. That's what they are. But they have to know some stuff. It depends, and also depends on the type of banking you do. It's very easy to pull everyone in there. Look, I have, and I know you were going down my career path, but like I started working after Jim Cramer, and I'm going to put it back to me. So as like when I was literally 25 was when I was 2005 is when I started investment banking. And I learned the private placement space after studying everything. So pipes, that's what they are, private investments in public equity. Okay. That is a very unique part of Wall Street. So I could argue that bankers are very important there because the banker, what I did was I connected the company to the investor. I connected the two, and you needed a liaison like me because the company doesn't really in the business of knowing investors, and the investors don't want to go through all the time and space and energy that it takes to get to know the company. That's our job. The bankers' job is to go to these presentations, meetings, connect with everybody, get calls, talk to every company, learn about them, go to the next company, learn about them. As much as the bankers, and I did this for 20 years of my life until I hung up the laces and went into starting Diesis, I would tell you that we're damn important because without us, you don't have the investors learning about the company. Without us, the company doesn't get to know the investors and they could get much worse deals in certain instances. And also depends on the kind of banking you do. This is a world that is so vast and big. It depends on the industry, the structure, and the type of equity, all of that. But the general idea of a banker is very simple. It's a connector. I'm connecting the company to the investor.
Yeah, and essentially, they're connectors and they're friction reducers. So they're the KY of the capital markets, is what you're saying.
That's one way to put it. That is something I could agree with. Yes.
Good.
Absolutely.
Well, I know not every deal works out perfectly. I mean, everyone I've been a part of is always, so I can't even get through that sentence. What is one of the most painful lessons you learned or painful experiences you had from your investment banking days?
Wow, that's a really good one. And I love these kind of questions. All right. So I think that, you start learning very quickly in the very beginning. I remember in my career, I got chewed out by investor after investor after investor. Okay. Just obliterated to the point where I'm like, almost wanted to cry because I'm like, am I that moronic? Am I that stupid? It's like, and then they make you feel really, really bad. Why? Why do they make you feel bad? What are they just all, bad people? I don't want to use any curse words. So, and the thing is, as I got older, I started understanding why. And they didn't need to take it that far, but it's because, come on, guys. Like I'm getting into space because they get so frustrated on getting pitched an idea by someone like me, who's supposed to know what I'm talking about. Think about that. I, as a banker, what's my job? I was hired by the client, my company, public company. Company says, I need to raise $3 million. I'm in a small cap, micro cap space. Usually you hear 3 billion, tiny money, but still hard to do because it's either penny stocks or micro caps, right? We know this business. And I would call you, Matt, when you were on the investor side, and I would say, I want to do a roadshow and I want to have the company present to you and we want to raise $5 million, $3 million. And what are you going to tell me? You're going to be like, Ariel, can you just give me some idea of what the company does? I don't know if I want to meet with them. I don't have time. I need to do all this other stuff, right? And I would tell you that what's going on. You would ask me more questions and I can't answer them because I don't know my own company that well. So when you ask me about like failures or some of the hardest times I had, I could have answered it very differently. And I could have said, well, this one company I did and went to zero. And then I wore that on my sleeve and I had to sleepless nights. Sure, that happened too. I lost money for my clients. But I would tell you the number one lesson. Again, I always come from an educational perspective here. What's the point? Like I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I could tell you that I did not know a lot of stuff when it came to my job. And you'd be surprised how few people do. And I got taught a pretty good lesson by Greg Goldberg and a few other folks. Even your old boss at the time was pretty tough with me. And, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. I needed all of that. I got my head handed to me because I didn't know the answers to basic questions that I should have known. And maybe they weren't so basic and they were more complicated. But you know what? If you're representing a client, you got to know the ins and outs. You got to know your client, company, as well as the management itself. That's my whole thing, because then you're an invaluable resource. Now, you're going to want to talk to me. You're going to say, you know what, Ariel, I don't have the time to research it. I don't even want to click through prompting. I'm on the phone with you. I could ask you very unique, different questions. I don't feel like prompting like crazy because I'm already using today's day and age of the world we're in, not back then. And I need to ask your thoughts. Do you have an opinion? Oh my God, you have an opinion? Great. I want to hear your opinion. Well, damn, I got opinionated. You better believe it. But in my first 3 years of my career in banking, I learned that I really needed to understand the business. Otherwise, I'd get smoked. And that happened too many times. So I got to know everything. And I ask really hard questions. I don't care. That attitude of, I don't care. I have to do my job. If I sound like, a difficult person, good. I want me to be difficult because if you can't handle it, I want nothing to do with you.
And you recently hung up your investment banking skates. Why'd you give it up?
I was tired of being on the server side of things. I was tired of trying to compete to win business. I mean, that's a wonderful thing. I think there are people who are born and bred for that, and they're going to die that way, and good for them. I did it for so many years. I was tired of being transactional. Bankers are transactional by nature. You have to be, otherwise you don't make money. And I didn't stay with the deal. I sometimes loved my companies that I would bank, and I couldn't stay with them because there was no money to stay with them. My job was not that. At my end of my career in banking, I ran banking shops. I ran groups of 30, 40 people, and we had P&L to hit. If I didn't hit my P&L, I'm fired. It's that simple. So I was tired of the transactional nature. I wanted to stay with deals. I wanted to grow companies. I love the business of business. And so, and that nothing feels better than a win. I had my wins where I would be with the company and the stock goes up 10, 20 times. You know how good that feels? You make everybody money. It's a win. It's just like, it's just the good guys win. You know what I mean? Like, so that's where I was done. I was done. And then Eric and I started basically Diesis because of him and he did so well in his business last year. And worked his butt off. I helped him, but it was him. And then we used that money to launch Diesis Holdings and Diesis Inc.
Good job, Eric.
Yeah. I can't wait to introduce you to him.
So what is Diesis? How's it different from investment banking?
So we're not registered. That's really important. We don't get paid to raise money, but that's what I did before. I charged commission. That's the whole point of being registered with FINRA. So we're not that at all. So any regulator that's listening, hello guys, but we don't charge percentages for our success. But first and foremost, what Diesis Holdings is an investment vehicle that we invest in public companies mostly, and we structure it. We are usually either part of a syndicate. So if there's like a $2 million financing into the company, we'll do a piece of that, or we'll do the whole thing ourselves. I like being the sole structuring person. I know how to structure from my experience in my business. I would do the deal myself, and it's my people. So it's myself, Eric, and a few other partners. It's our money, almost like a family office style, type entity, and we structure our own transaction. So we give companies directly money, not buying an open market. That's the biggest difference that listeners need to understand. There's a big difference in Wall Street. Institutions put money into companies. That means I'm getting equity from the treasury, directly from the company's treasury, not from the open market stock. So they issue me new shares that way. And it's via a convertible, preferred, and that's a little more complicated stuff, but that's what Diesis Holdings is. And then Diesis Inc., which you'll see on diesisinc.com, you could see what we do, but that is the advisory arm. So think about this. Like if I'm investing in you and you're like a company, I want to be with you. Why would I just invest in you? Like, all right, see you later, Matt. Uh, I'm giving my children. Please take care of them. I'm like, no, I want to co-parent, man. Like, I want to show them off to the private school, whatever, like, or best school. It doesn't have to be private. But the thing is, it's like, I want to be there for them. How do I be there for them? It's by way of being with the story. So I invest, I stay, and I do business development. I roll up my sleeves. I go nice and get in the weeds, man. Like that's what I do. And I work on the business itself. Remember what I said in the beginning of my career? I didn't know my stuff. I got my head handed to me. I learned it real well. I know all the questions to ask. And I could do a whole other class like that. What questions do you ask the companies, and tough ones? And don't be nice. There's no reason to be. Be business direct, right? And then you could be nice as you get to be friends. I like being nice. But my point is, I put my business hat on. Okay, we're going at it, and I'm going straight. But you got to know that I have the best intentions for you. Because if I'm investing into you, I'm going to stay with you, and I'm going to make sure my investment's going to make money, because I'm going to bring my whole ecosystem that I've built for the last 25 years of my professional career, and I'm bringing it all to you, all of it. I have thousands of people I know. I know legal, accounting, business development, distribution, all that. It's like, think private equity, right? KKRs of the world. They come in, they bring their whole ecosystem in, they bring the experts in, help the business grow. And in the world that we're in, you know this world, $1 if you make them extra, that makes you 10 more dollars of value. It creates you 10 more, depending on the valuations of the industry. But think about how crazy that is. If I'm involved with you and I help your business go up in value by way of generating your revenue, my stock goes up, my investment goes up. So that's what Diesis is about. We are investing, and then we're directly working with the companies. We're an active investor, not activists. We are the best friends to management, and we're working every day alongside management to increase the value of the business and the stock.
Very cool. So not passive, folks, active, but friendly.
Well, it's not.
What have you done professionally that you're most proud of?
These are out of the blue, but what I'm proud of is the success that I was able to show my parents after putting all this effort into me, working with me, like putting all this money into me, and the fact that I was able to put all these ideas together and go for it, and actually, take a deal from beginning to end, learning about the business, closing the deal, and then going up list. So there was like this one company, Green Box Payment Processing Company. They were on the OTC, for God's sakes. They were trading at 28 cents a share. No one would touch it. I got in there. I worked my butt off, got a convertible note closed at 30 cents above market, 22 cents above market with 100% warrant coverage. Then I did, the stock went up to a lot because it was a perfect blockchain space at the time, 2021 or so, 2020. And I ended up doing another deal at 80 cents OTC. Okay, that's unheard of. Then I did another deal uplist, my own. This is all through when I was working at EF Hutton. And we did a $51 million IPO, 51 million onto the NASDAQ. And then I did a $100 million convertible note. So that was like my biggest success in my career, where I was able to take an idea and keep bringing it forward with all these financings and being there with the company. This is all in the period of like 1 year, all of that, maybe a year and a half, which was unbelievable success. And I'll tell you, that is one thing I was proud of. But the other thing I was very proud of, and again, this is just going for it. It's in life, right? And I said, I was 37. This is 2017. And I said to myself, 2016, I'm like, I really like gaming. And I really enjoyed reading Ready Player One. One of my favorite books, and Steven Spielberg did a great job with the movie. I loved it. I loved all of it. I said, let me look at the public markets. Not one virtual reality public company existed at the time. Not one. They were starting AR a little bit here and there, but not VR. I decided to start the company in 2016, 17. I brought in Laurent, my business partner, Braden. You remember him? He was,
of course,
on. I ended up working my butt off on going to call. I talked when me and Laurent talked. He told me, hey, if you like this idea and you want to take this company and start something and bring it public, you got to do A, B, C, D. And he told me everything that I needed to do to attract him to be part of the company. And I did everything he told me to do. And then what it turned into is a business I started called the Glimpse Group. I brought in 4 other partners with me. I was not being greedy. I just said, well, everyone gets equal share, whatever. I don't care. I just want to start this company. We started in 2016. The 10-year mark will be very soon, in about a month. And so in 2021, I'm just fast forwarding, we took it public. And I took that company I started originally, public and onto the NASDAQ. I was the banker for my own company that I started. Not one person could say that. I don't know one person that could argue to say that. I was on the board. I was in management. I did it all, man. Like I did M&A. I raised all in for VRAR, which is now GGRP on the NASDAQ. I think I raised somewhere in and around 40 million bucks for them, maybe more. Around there. I mean, so like, and then we took it public and still public. And that is one of my favorite accomplishments because that is so damn cool to be part of something and bring it onto the NASDAQ. That's just unheard of. Most people don't know how to take companies public. We did it all from scratch. So that is another thing I love to say I did.
Very cool. I would love to say that too. What are you particularly optimistic about?
In general, I would say the environment that we're in today is just so cool to live in this world. I mean, some people will say, "Oh man, the best times is before the internet." Okay, maybe, but this is a new revolution. Agentic AI is unbelievable. NVIDIA just announced they can do $1 trillion of revenue in the next 3 years or so. So something like insane numbers. I mean, a number that you never fathomed in your life revenue from one company. Okay, they're $5 trillion companies. Crazy, but what's so nuts about that is that agentic AI is going to change, is changing the world as we speak. Everyone that's listening must have some language model that they're working with. Claude or Anthropic slash ChatGPT is getting a little bit passe, but I use it because I'm just used to using it and it has all my history. Any AI language model, and you have to know and you have to work your butt off because it's going to take every job away. I think in about 5 years, you're going to probably lose 70% of the workforce in anything related to computing. I think the business of working with your hands is going to go through the roof. You're going to see vocational schools go crazy. I think you're going to have engineers, just the old school hard knock businesses is going to go through the roof as well, because all these people that are going to be graduating are going to be with a business degree and doesn't understand human behavior or doesn't understand the deal making like we do, because we're old enough to do that by now. It's a huge void. So it's going to be a big problem. So when I'm saying that what I'm mostly happy about and really excited about the future is learning how to use, agentic AI. I really think that, and that's going to help our businesses grow. And it's going to help my investments think a little bit more, advanced. And I think the margins of all these companies are going to go through the roof as well. I think the businesses are going to become less expensive, less people necessary, more automation. Things will become a lot simpler. I think you're going to see that in the next 2 years. But that is an exciting, unbelievable time. There's some things you should look into there.
Well, I love that. A path towards simplicity. That's music to my ears. Where can people learn more about you, what you're up to? They might want some help being a better hockey player. Where can we send them, Ariel?
You can look at my LinkedIn, just my name, Ariel Imas. Feel free to link me there. I'm also on a podcast with Wolf Financial every Monday at 1:00, small cap show. You can also find me on Diesis, my website there. So it's DIESIS Inc.com. And so those are the places I would say to find me. I'm going to probably be a little more vocal. I'm just taking my time a little bit, but you'll probably see a book out of me. You're going to see some more articles on LinkedIn, on X. I'm trying to get out there. I'm really trying to be there for the people.
Well, the people thank you. And I thank you for being on today's show. I appreciate it, Ariel. Come back soon.
Always a pleasure. This was awesome. This is so nice of you to just do this. And I really loved, knowing you for all these years and continue to many more together.
Absolutely. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Matt Balaker podcast. To learn more, please check out mattbalaker.com and encourage your friends to like, subscribe, and share. Really appreciate it.